Hello! I'm joined today by Mr. Ronald Theriot from Louisiana Beer Reviews.
Hello, folks. Welcome from Louisiana in America.
USA! And I'm from Yorkshire, UK. When I recent trip to Ohio, as soon as I saw this can, I says, "Can I take this home so I get to review it with Mr. J. Theriot, Ronald Theriot?" It is Blue Ribbon beer.
Now, is that a 12-ounce can?
Yeah, it's small as can. Yeah, 12 ounce. I didn't want to take one of the big cans, otherwise known as the oil cans.
Oh, right.
I won't be able to get it in a bag all the way back to the UK without it getting exploding or some silliness. But the smaller the can, I can get more beer in my bag to take it back home.
That makes sense.
But yeah, Pabst Blue Ribbon. A Blue Ribbon normally, when you go to like a festival or something, it normally means excellence and stuff like that, doesn't it?
Yes, and when it first was on the market. Now, it's one of the old American beer brands. It's the second oldest. The oldest is Schaefer, which you can almost never find. That was from 1842. Schaefer is the oldest lager beer produced in America.
Yeah.
And the second oldest is Pabst from 1844. But when it first was on the market, it was called Jacob's Best Beer. And then it won a Blue Ribbon in 1893 at a World's Fair competition. And they were so proud, they started putting the blue ribbons on the beer. And they got the nickname Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Okay. Cool.
And actually, they used to have silk ribbons on the beer, but that was expensive. I bought a bottle a few years ago, and it had a paper ribbon. It has an actual ribbon on it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some of the breweries here in the UK, one near Kevin Black, the real brand, they actually put actual feathers attached to the bottle. The brewery is Two Cocks Brewery, but yeah, it must be expensive.
Yeah, there's a lot of Pabst collectibles in America. Back when I was a child, Pabst was one of the top 4 or 5 beer brands in America.
Yeah.
Then in the 1980s, it started to go downhill, and so for about 20 years, 25 years, it was one of the least popular brands, which made it one of the most popular brands again. In other words, hitting rock bottom made it go to the top because it became so inexpensive. People with no money began to drink it.
Exactly.
And then it became like the cool thing to do to drink Pabst. So now it's one of the top 20 beer brands again, believe it or not.
Yeah, it's the same kind of mentality when you see some from your childhood, like the Sesame Street, and it's retro feel. And I'm guessing a lot of people drink it because, my father used to drink it, so I'll drink it. And it's not that bad. I mean, a lot of the Americans that I chatted to while I was recently over there enjoyed it. This and Little Kings.
Oh, the cream ale, right. I'm going to watch that video. You posted that on YouTube already?
Yeah, I think so, yeah, on your channel.
Yeah, I overlooked it somehow. I'm gonna look at that. I've had that before, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my brother had like kind of indigestion from it because if you ever have a load of IPAs or a load of stouts and then all of a sudden you go into a lager, you're bound to mess your stomach up a bit from all the different textures of beer.
Yeah, and Little Kings is sort of questionable in their quality control, possibly. Yeah.
They always remind me of the little bottles that you would get in an hotel room. Because Little Kings, the reason I'm guessing behind the Little Kings is because it's a little bottle.
Right, right. They don't sell that in my state anymore. They used to sell it here and there. Usually you'd see it covered with dust. Yeah, the sales for Little Kings are extremely low, whereas the sales for Pabst Blue Ribbon is extremely high now. It's like 4.7% alcohol,
Yeah.
so it's very easy drinking. You've probably noticed that.
Well, this is 5%. Yeah.
4.7, yeah.
It's 4.7 in the can.
Does it say? I don't think the can gives the alcohol, but I believe if you look on the website, it says 4.74,
Yeah.
4.74, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, as we were saying just before we started, a lot of websites are misleading when you try to find the information, especially when you have to review a beer. You have to find as much about the beer as possible. I know Ronald makes a lot of research before he does beers reviews, because at the end of the day, you don't want to sound daft or silly.
Right. And Pabst, they're very difficult. Back in the 1990s, I used to write letters to beer companies because they didn't really have websites back then so much, and you couldn't find anything. So I would write a letter and send it in the mail. Please send me information on your company, or I would call them. They had sometimes numbers you could call.
Yeah.
But Pabst is the only company that never sent me anything. I guess they just didn't have money. Now, one time later, when the internet started to become popular, I wrote them an email, and they did send me a packet. Now, this was around 12, 13, 14 years ago. They sent me a packet.
Yeah.
And they said, "Oh, you drank our beer." They were so excited that someone drank their beer, and they said, "Well, hey, here you go. Here's a hat." They sent me a hat, and then they sent me a shirt. They said, "Here's a shirt," and they said, they sent me a bunch of bumper stickers and all types of bottle openers and everything. And they said, "Go around and drink it everywhere and let people see you drinking it," and which I did. And even brought a bumper sticker to a bar room that served Pabst, and they were happy to hang it up. I didn't ask for anything free. They just sent it to me because they were glad someone drank it. So,
speaking of T-shirts of retro breweries like Pabst, they're now coming like collector items, and people actually wear them, and they actually think that it's cool to wear beers like that from the old. Like when I looked on the website, old Milwaukee.
Yeah.
A lot of people wear old Milwaukee T-shirts these days.
Yeah, and Old Milwaukee is one of the brands owned by Pabst. You might have done the research on Pabst too. It's a very strange company. The family, the Pabst family, they have not owned the company for decades. Okay, just like with many businesses, one of these entrepreneurial people came along and bought the business.
Yeah.
And he began to see that they would not be able to compete really with the other big breweries because they were a little bit cash poor. So what he started to do was cut costs wherever he could. And eventually, before he died, they were starting to wind down their brewing operations and pay other people to brew their beer. And for the last almost 20 years now, about 17 years, they have not owned. No, let me take that back. For the last 13 years, they have not owned any breweries. They traded all their breweries to Miller, in fact.
Yeah, which is what we found out earlier. Now, Budweiser goes by King of Beers, America's Best. But I'm just reading the can, and it actually says America's Best in 1893.
Yeah.
Now, was it only America's Best in that year? Or from?
No, I think if you look on the if you look on Great American Beer Festival and the World Beer Cup, you'll look. If you type in Pabst, you'll see it's won many awards in competition. But
no, the way it describes on the can, it says selected as America's Best in 1893. It doesn't specify any elsewhere following years.
Yeah, because it's basically like they made this can design. about 110 years ago, and they decided they would just keep the same design and never change it. So they basically have never changed. You know, if you look at all the old cans over the last century, there are slight alterations to it.
Yeah.
But basically, they have never changed the design. They just don't change it. I don't know why.
I mean, I think when I had tried this on tap before I had it on can, I didn't mind it on tap actually, and I like a lot of American beers.
It's especially good on draft. Yeah.
Yeah.
On draft is especially good.
Yeah.
Did they sell this in Great Britain?
No, that's the one of the reasons I had to carry it back. It says it's established in Milwaukee, 1844. But yeah, so it took a good 89 years before it came America's best. Is it 59 years? My maths is terrible.
49 years, yeah.
Yeah. So it took that many years to become America's best. 49 years. And then from 1893, it's, according to the can, it didn't get America's best again, but you say it did. And maybe they need to update the can.
Yeah, I would tell the viewers to look up the websites for Great American Beer Festival and World Beer Cup, and they'll notice it has won awards since. Talking about, let's see, what was I going to say? Pabst. They are still brewed in Milwaukee, but they're brewed at the Miller Brewing facility, mainly in Milwaukee. There are a few other little companies, I think, that do some Pabst Brewing. It may not be for the Blue Ribbon beer, but it is still from Milwaukee.
So if we were to say America's best in this day and age, we've mentioned three breweries already: Pabst, Little Kings, Budweiser, also Younglings, which I've got to try when we're in Ohio.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it on tap. Enjoyed it on bottle as well. The many variations. Which would you class out of the four as America's best?
It's so subjective, Stuart. It's hard to say because a lot of people would look at Pabst and say, no, it's more like America's worst, you know, because they don't like mass-produced lager beers, you know. So it depends who you talk to. Now, if it's one of the top 20 selling beers in the United States, a country of 300 million people, obviously many people think it's very good. Or maybe they like it because sometimes you can get an 18-pack for $9.97. And it's nothing offensive about it. I mean, I never drink Pabst and say, well, this is really fantastic. Now, if I had to say what's the best, I might pick Schlitz over Pabst. Schlitz is owned by Pabst today.
Which is owned by Miller's.
Not owned by Miller. They contract brew with Miller. Pabst is a separate company, but they have a working agreement with Miller. I think the reason for that was Miller probably was going to buy Pabst in 1999, but they were worried about the U.S. government accusing them of trying to be a monopoly. So
yes, I've read about that.
Yeah, so they decided we'll just stay a separate company, at least in theory. Pabst is located in Los Angeles. It's owned by a private family, but they have a very close, what you might say, I don't know if they use that expression in your country, a very close joined at the hip relationship. And I'll mention this real fast. In 1957, Pabst was the #1 brand of beer in 1957. That was the last year it was #1. In 1957, Pabst was eclipsed by Budweiser, which became the #1 beer, and Budweiser Light. Bud Light is still the #1. But Pabst was a key player until it started to stumble, like I say, in the 1980s. They ran television commercials heavily. You know, you never see commercials on TV today because it's too expensive. They do what they call guerrilla marketing, like guerrilla warfare. They use guerrilla marketing.
Yeah.
Very cheap.
Now, we did Budweiser before, and we've done Sapporo as well. I mean, would you happily buy if you were to say this was, example, $6.99 for 18 or $6.99 for 6 IPAs, which would you go for?
I'm glad. I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, I drink IPAs, but I'm so caught up in the beer reviewing thing, right?
Yeah.
This started about 5 years ago, and I want to review everything, right? So, which is impossible, we know. But so I start. Let me try each day. Each day, I'm trying a different beer, right? So I'll try a beer and say, "Oh, it's fabulous, A plus. This IPA is an A plus." But then I may not go back to it for a decade. But Pabst is the type of beer you would keep around the house as a standby, because every day you don't want to drink a beer and have to think about it and then write an article. I have to write a review and do the research. So I would probably buy the Pabst because it's just an everyday drinker.
Yeah.
Like I talked with another beer reviewer, it's not a contemplative beer as much as it is just a drinker beer. So, and I talked to the grocery store. I talked to the people that sell beer, and they tell me that they actually don't really make any money off of craft beer.
The door is because it costs so much to buy the majority of the time.
Yeah, they said what happens with craft beer is people buy one, they drink it, and they never buy it again. Not because they don't like it, because they're off to something else, you see.
Yeah.
And so the stores, when they buy a craft beer, they pray it sells, because if there's any left on the shelf, it's going to go outdated and they're going to have to just give it away. Whereas they said the money, the real money, is in the Pabst, the light beers, the common beers that people buy continuously. They repeat buy it because they're doing it like me. They're just using it for a filler.
Yeah, there's a select few real ales that I normally go back to, but yeah, I can see why a lot of the Americans would revisit Pabst over a 6-pack, because I don't know about you, but real ale and craft beer, you feel a bit tired and lethargic after one or two, whereas you can drink one or two of these and you can keep on chatting, you keep on moving and stuff like that. But yeah.
Yeah, and people have to understand that, and I know in England, ales are more common as far as everyday drinkers, ale. Okay, I understand that. But it might be like John Smith's ale or Abbott ale or...
There's so many.
But in America, ales are not everyday drinkers. They're mostly specialty beers. In America, the everyday drinkers have always been lager. And most people I know look at me as some kind of oddball because I'm interested in beer more than just drinking it. Now, I know so many people, they drink it, beer, more than me, much more than me, every day. But they look at me as, like you would say, daft or strange because I have this unusual interest in the beer. They say, oh, well, who cares? I just drank it. I don't care. I don't care about the history of the beer, and I don't care what happened in 1957, and I don't care about the ingredients. You know what I'm saying? They just look at it as a strange little eccentricity.
I mean, if I was to compare this to a beer that's popular here in the UK, it'd be Carling. Carling's very light, very almost corn, a little bit like dirty fabric, like it's damp fabric. You get the same kind of aromas, and that's what the same kind of nose and palate you would get from Carling. And a lot of people drink it. It's fine. They drink pints and pints and pints. But I think this is barley. I think they use barley for Pabst. Or is it corn?
They use barley, and corn is used as a filler. Corn syrup. That's always been the case since it debuted on the market in 1844. There's a myth about World War II and the use of corn and rice, but it really is just a myth. There's no evidence to prove that contention. But Carling is made according to the same recipe. The barley malt, it's 90% water. All beers, there's water, barley malt, and Carling, just like Pabst, uses corn as a filler. They use hop extract and yeast. Carling is from Canada. It is still made in America, and it's owned by Pabst in America. In America, it's owned by Pabst.
So it has that connections.
In America. Now, around the world, Carling is owned by MillerCoors. I'm sorry, Molson Coors. So yeah, it's a very big beer in England. I know it's not big at all in America, although you will find it in an odd place here and there.
Yeah,
and Canada is very popular.
Yeah, the majority of the lagers that I saw on tap or in the stores was Pabst, Little Kings, Yingling, and there was, what was that other one? There's another lager as well, but
Genesee.
Yeah, it might be that Genesee, because I think I had that while I was there.
Yeah, if you come to Louisiana, though, you won't see Genesee or Yingling because they're not sold here. The common beers you'll see here are Pabst Blue Ribbon, Budweiser, of course, Coors Banquet beer. You'll see Miller High Life everywhere you turn.
Yeah, Miller High Life.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's very popular down here. I'm trying to think. All the light beers are very big. Here's Carling that's sold in America.
Ah, yes, we used to sell. Yeah.
I know in England they took off the black label and it's just Carling today. In Canada, South Africa, and the United States, it's still black label.
Yeah, I don't know why they dropped the name Black Label, because the adverts were really popular.
I don't know, maybe they thought it was nefarious or something.
Mm.
But anyway, I cannot get that here. It was shipped to me by a fan who wanted me to try the black label. Oh, I'll show you a few things if you'd like to see real fast.
You understand?
Back in the 1990s, Pabst tried to diversify, and they came out with Pabst Ice, which was a strong version of Pabst, extra strong beer. I bought that here in Louisiana. It did not last. It was good. It just
did not last because you drank it, or because it...
No, I just couldn't compete with the other more popular ice beers. Another beer that Pabst tried to come out with was Pabst Genuine Draft.
That looks like Miller. What's the other one? Miller
Genuine Draft. I think they probably were threatened by a lawsuit.
Because the labeling is very similar.
Yeah. So all it was a draft beer that was packaged without being pasteurized. I thought it was good, but it didn't last very long at all. I saw it once or twice. And they just decided, hell, we're not making money off all these little variants. Let's just stick with Pabst and the Pabst Light, which you can find around Chicago mostly, not around here, Pabst Light.
Yeah, I mean, I think a friend of mine says a certain store here in the UK has started getting this now, but I've never seen it before. But yeah, I mean, a recent beer I had in Schuster from Sardinia, Italy, that also got a very low rating on Rate Beer. I think it got like 7 out of 100. I know this one gets about 2 out of 100 or something like that.
I don't see how.
Yeah, 2 out of 100. I mean, what I don't understand is a lot of lagers will get a very low rating. We've seen Budweiser and Sapporo and stuff like that. I don't know if people from Rate Beer or the rating sites don't like lagers in general.
They don't. And I think if they were fair, they would say something like it's ordinary or dull. I could go along with that, saying it's ordinary or dull, but they'll write a review saying it's horrendous, it's undrinkable, it tastes like urine, or all these ridiculous descriptions, which to me it hurts the credibility of that the writer. because I don't think anybody honestly could drink it and say it's horrible. I think the worst you could say about it would be that it's dull or underwhelming.
But that's only compared to the aged in vanilla dolphin unicorn cask. Added
Right.
unicorn, rhinoceros. It's all those random ingredient beers.
Right. Right.
Where this is just, when people say beer, that's what this is. It's a beer. It's not beer with chocolate. It's
Right.
not beer with vanilla. It's not beer with oranges. It's just beer.
Yes, and I had one of our fellow beer reviewers or beer. He said he doesn't really review beer. Okay, he looks at beers, and he said, "Well, when you drink a real beer, talk to me." But this is a real beer.
It's
It's
here.
it's just a style that maybe you don't like, but it's not a fake beer. It's real. I said, "No, it's real. It's real.
It's real. I can touch it.
It exists."
Yeah. I have the same problem when people will say that's real ale. Because it's real ale, I can see it's right there. I think that's real cider. Because it's real cider, it's right there. I don't understand why they had that real on top of front. Or
Yeah, I think
craft.
in England, doesn't real ale really relate to something that's a live yeast in the bottle or can, that it's bottle conditioned?
The term ale also reverts to that as well. It's just a living product, ale. But they add real to it just to say, well, this one's got natural ingredients. We'll call it an organic ale.
So it's a marketing strategy.
Yeah. It's just the same as craft beer. Craft is a technical. If you look at the terms for craft, it says something that's made by and or something like that. The second thing it says on there, something lied or sold or marketed.
Craft beer is a meaningless term. I have been saying this for 20 years, almost 20 years. Let me tell you why the term craft beer is meaningless. Okay, and this goes back to Boston Brewing Company, Samuel Adams. Now, Samuel Adams was one of the first well-known, what we would say, quote unquote, craft beer companies, because they made specialty beers in small batches. Not the case anymore because they're made in huge batches. Okay, Boston Brewing Company could not afford to buy the equipment to produce their beers on any sort of large scale. So what Boston Brewing Company did early on, and may still do today, because you'll never get a straight answer from them, but they paid mass producers to brew their beer. Stroh's Brewing, Pabst Brewing, and Miller produced 90% of the Boston Brewing Company craft beer up until, and maybe still today. So it was not handcrafted, whatever that's supposed to mean, because even craft brewers use machinery. So you have people that will drink a Boston Brewing Company beer and look down at a Pabst and scoff and say, "Damn that Pabst beer, damn it to hell. I'm drinking a Boston Brewing Company Samuel Adams cream stout." But it may be brewed at the Miller Brewery.
It's the same with, I think, Samuel Smith's. I think they brew out of Heineken or something. It's the same with a lot of breweries that you wouldn't know. They use other breweries to send their beer all over the world.
And a way you can test it out is you write an email to a craft brewing company and ask them a question. And if you don't get a straight answer, you'll know the answer. Ask the craft beer company, are any of your brands contract brewed by another company? Now, if they refuse to give you a direct answer, you'll know the answer. Another question I've asked, or I've suggested that people ask a craft brewing company: do any of your beers contain any coloring, such as caramel color? If they refuse to give you an answer, you'll know the answer.
It's the exact same thing. But what else do we need to say about this, though? I mean, I think
Well, what we can say is that it is not made with any artificial coloring or flavors. Now, you may not like the ingredients, but the ingredients are clear. And if you get on the Pabst Blue Ribbon website, they're very clear with what they use to brew it with. Water, barley malt, and I believe it's 6-row, they say. They even tell where it comes from. Corn syrup, it says corn syrup. Hop extract, and yeast. Now, they're very clear about that. And one thing I like about Pabst, they always give direct answers to questions I ask. They don't give evasive answers. Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt. What do you say?
no, I'm just belching. I'm just belching. But yeah, I like it. It's all right. I mean, I think when I did drink it, it was at a bar with Tom Shipman, my brother Andrew, Steve Rennick, and his wife Mashana, and we were drinking it. It's fine. We were enjoying it.
It's fine. It's not world class. It's not world class. It's nothing to go berserk about. But it's fine if that's what you like, and I like it. So.
Yeah, I mean, if you enjoy it, that's fine. If the person next to you doesn't enjoy it, that's his opinion. And if he has a problem with that, that's his problem. But if you enjoy it, keep drinking it. That is the Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Yes, thank you, world. I want to thank all the hundreds of thousands of people every hour that'll watch this video.
Yeah. But as always, there's two people I really like talking about lagers. My brother Andrew, because when we first started drinking beer, we drank all the different lagers, and just like Ronald Theriot, he's also, even though he'll drink IPAs, stouts, porters, golden ales, and such like that, he'll always drink lagers as well, because he'll give every beer his honest opinion, which everybody should do.
Right. I agree with that. I never did have that I'm in this camp or that camp attitude. You know, you got some people that are in a certain faction. It's almost like political parties, right?
Yeah.
I'm in the craft beer party, so therefore I hate the mass-produced beer party, or I'm in the, vice versa. But I don't care. I just drink it. To me, it's just a beverage. I never did get political about it, but other people are very wrapped up in it.
They get very, very mental.
Frankly, angry.
Yeah. But thank you again to Ronald for joining me from Louisiana Beer Reviews. I put the link for his channel down in the description bar. Check it out. He's a great reviewer. All the way from Louisiana.
Thank you. And I appreciate getting together with you, Stuart, all the way from England.
And I'm going to let Ronald finish up with his exit thing. Always come back to Louisiana. You going to see it? Where's he gone? Is it frozen? Ah, it's gone. You take care. Goodbye.